You are listening to the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 Dean Radio. I'm your host, Adam Wright, along with co-host Justin Tucker. We are on to week 2 of preseason competition in the NFL, and we have no shortage of things to talk about here, so we're going to dive right into it. First off, we have Cam Newton and the Patriots, who have just gone through a little bit of a mishap with a COVID test. Mm-hmm. Cam Newton took one off team facilities, and he is out for a couple of days because of it. Now, Cam Newton is actually unvaccinated, mind you, and this has caused a couple of issues, whether you agree or disagree with players getting vaccinated or not being vaccinated. But this has opened up a little bit of an opportunity for Mac Jones for these next couple of days where he's going to be out. And Bill Belichick said himself when he was asked about it, he's asked, does this open up an opportunity for Mac Jones to start? And he said, and Bill Belichick, in the most Bill Belichick way, he goes, yes, it is. Yes, it is. And so I guess the question we can take out of this is this an actual opportunity where Mac Jones can realistically beat out Cam Newton?
Well, if I'm in my joking sense, I'd say absolutely not. Cam Newton, Superman all the way. Absolutely, he will lead you to the playoffs. He will lead you to the promised land, and he will show you what you're missing. Oh man, look at the throws he's been making. Unbelievable.
Delusional ass.
But if I'm being serious here, yes, this is a perfect opportunity for Mac Jones to come in and show what he has during preseason and show Bill Belichick, hey, I'm capable of running this offense if anything happens to Cam, or I get to the point where I'm just like better than Cam Newton right now, which I'm not sure will happen within the first 4 weeks of the season. But by like week 8 or 9, you could possibly see a quarterback switch depending on how good or bad Cam Newton plays or how good Mac Jones is progressing. So I think this could be a good opportunity for him to get some reps, get more acclimated to the NFL, and get better so he'll one day take over the reins.
So I've said this from the start ever since draft day, ever since they drafted Mac Jones. I don't want Mac Jones starting the first 4 weeks of the season. I don't. I think you're throwing him in the deep end without his floaties. No matter how NFL ready he has looked this preseason, which he damn well has, but you are just asking for trouble by throwing him out there before week 4. And so my main issue is week 4 is when they have to face arguably the overwhelming favorites to win the Super Bowl in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Tom Brady. The narrative changes with that. This throws him. You're just asking for trouble with it. And by doing so, they need to, and even if they do just start him for a couple of weeks and then sit him for week 4, I still have an issue with that, because then you're just cycling him in and out. That could still do something to him. I'm all about taking care of the young quarterback, nurture your franchise guy, the quarterback of the future. And once he's NFL ready, you throw him out there. But that time is not now. He's not ready. We have Cam Newton for a reason. Bill Belichick brought him in for a reason, to be a veteran leader and to be a mentor. I could give a rat's ass about his potential, about his play style, about whether or not he could win games. I just want him to be a bridge quarterback. That's all. But no matter what, I don't want Mac Jones to start the season. I just don't.
I don't give a rat's ass about his power. I don't give a rat's ass about his speed.
Shout out to Felger and Maz on 98.5, the Sports Hub. going off about Franchi Cordero in that Andrew Benintendi trade when it first happened.
Oh man, I can't. But anyway, as I digress, I think Mac Jones, if given the opportunity, I think depending on who's he going against, could start some games in the NFL this season if asked to. If per se Cam Newton gets injured and is out for the rest of the game because of his playing style, which could factor into it, which I hope not, knock on wood, because Cam Newton will lead y'all to the playoffs. You just don't realize it yet. And so I believe what he's shown in preseason and what he's going to show later on. Hey, he's a rookie. He'll make mistakes. He'll throw it into double coverage. He's learning new things and he's learning different coverages in the NFL that's being played that wasn't being not necessarily played during college, that is harder to see in the NFL. So I think over time he'll get better, but I do think he can learn while Cam Newton is absent for week 3 and take those necessary steps in order to become the future of the franchise.
See, I agree. I just think he needs some time. I just think he needs some time to get ready. Even if he does happen to be ready, better safe than sorry. I don't want to ruin this quarterback. They spent the 15th overall pick, the highest pick they've had in a very long time, on this quarterback. This is the highest a quarterback has been drafted ever since Drew Bledsoe about 30 so years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some high stakes with this pick. And if this pick fails, then it could screw up the Patriots franchise for a really long time.
It could.
Because you have a bust at quarterback, meaning you're going to have a gaping hole there for a few years until they figure out that Mac Jones is a bum, if he is. And then they have to draft a new quarterback.
Yeah.
And then they have to wait for him to develop. And they have to make sure that he actually ends up being the guy. And God forbid that guy isn't the guy. Then you're really screwing yourself up. And you're getting up to a decade at this point without good quarterback play. And you have just become like the New York Jets, where you're just cycling in quarterback after quarterback. And we'll get to the New York Jets in a few moments. They might have done something good for once.
Shocker.
Yeah, big shocker. Anyways, we're going to move on to our next part. We have a certain quarterback there's another quarterback controversy going on the other side of the country in San Francisco between Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Maybe something unexpected could come up. You never know. But stay tuned. You're listening to the Fumblerooski podcast. Welcome back. This is the Fumblerooski podcast. I'm here with Justin Tucker. We are talking some preseason football. And we just previously spoke about one quarterback battle going on in New England. Now on to another that's going on in San Francisco between quarterbacks Trey Lance taking number 3 overall in the draft, and Jimmy Garoppolo, who was traded from New England back in 2017, then given a massive deal before he even threw a pass in his second season with the team. And now there's a little bit of a controversy because Trey Lance has continued to show his potential in these past couple of starts. The efficiency isn't there yet. He still has a completion percentage of under 50% in both games. But regardless,
Mm-hmm.
he has certainly at this stage um uh exceeded expectations as to where he's supposed to be by now.
Right.
So the league perception has been that Jimmy Garoppolo would be starting for most of this year. But Justin, do you think that that Trey Lance could be starting sooner rather than later?
It could very well happen. I wouldn't be surprised if it happened around week 5, week 6, around that time, when they're like, "All right, Trey Lance, it's your shot. Give it a go." Because I just don't believe they are high on Jimmy Garoppolo. Oh, where's my manners? Porn star Jimmy. I don't think they're that high on him right now, which is why they took Trey Lance with the 3rd overall pick. So I could see it happening with the way he's playing during preseason. Yeah, he's making mistakes. He's a rookie. They're allowed to make mistakes. But the way he's throwing touchdown passes, the way he's throwing the wide open receivers, the way he's throwing receivers open, you like to see that, and you like to see that from your quarterbacks. And some of the throws he makes, some quarterbacks couldn't make that even if they tried to. So it's different than how I expected Trey Lance to start off preseason, and at the rate he's going, I could very well see him starting in the regular season sooner rather than later.
So look, as I said before, the efficiency isn't quite there yet. He threw a pick in the beginning of his second preseason start, and he had a completion percentage of under 50% the game prior. Now he's still flat. He's still shown a lot of potential, but this is a guy who, when he went into the league, everybody thought he was going to be a project anyways. We didn't know much about him. We didn't know what he was going to be like. We just know he has some raw potential. He has some talent. He has the abilities. He has the tools. He's just going to need some time to develop, and we'll see they'll see what we have in him. But you see a lot of Patrick Mahomes in him, a type of player who has a great arm talent, great arm strength, and is able to make plays with. He's a dual threat quarterback at the same time. So this is something where they're just going to have to wait and see. But he has been pretty good pretty early on. So Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't been good either during the preseason as well. So he hasn't gotten that many reps, but in the reps that he's gotten, he hasn't really been that good.
He hasn't been bad either. In the reps he's gotten, he went 3 of 3 in one drive for 26 yards. It's not eye-blazing numbers.
He threw a pick in his last game.
Because I think it was the receiver. I'm not sure if it was the receiver's fault or not. I'm not sure if the pass was a forced interception or it just went through the receiver's hands and it got picked. I can't remember, but I think it was Asante Samuels Jr., who I really like and I'm very high on. I think he's one of the best candidates on Defensive Rookie of the Year. So I'm happy that he's looking good in preseason. But overall, I think Jimmy G hasn't looked horrendous. I think he's just not getting the reps because it's preseason, and he doesn't look too bad. And I think he won't lose his job during preseason of all times. That's it.
No, I'm not saying he's going to lose his job during preseason. Like that'd be absurd, especially given the position that each of these two players are in. One's expected to be a project in Trey Lance, and the other is Jimmy Garoppolo, who's pretty much expected to start. I'm just saying I think it's going to be sooner rather than later. At some point this season, Trey Lance could end up starting over Jimmy Garoppolo.
But if I'm the 49ers and if I play this smart, I would rather sit Trey Lance for a year to iron out all the mistakes than try to force him in now. If I'm the 49ers, I keep Jimmy G in for the entire year, even if they don't make the playoffs, just because I believe with the talent they have surrounding Jimmy Garoppolo, it's good enough to at least make the playoffs. Because we weren't saying this in 2019 when they were making the Super Bowl. This only came about because of one throw that barely was overthrown to Emmanuel Sanders in the Super Bowl. If that's completed, we wouldn't even be having this conversation about Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy G will be the star of the Super Bowl, and we all be saying porn star Jimmy in admiration. But that just because of that one play, we went from Jimmy G's a very good quarterback to he's now about to get his job taken from by Trey Lance. So if we can just dial it back a minute with Jimmy G and just let him be the starter for the year and just let Trey Lance learn from Jimmy Garoppolo and let them mentor and let Jimmy G have the reps and let him mentor Trey Lance, I think this could be a playoff team for years to come.
So Jimmy Garoppolo is a player who he can certainly play, but they definitely see more in Trey Lance. Obviously, they took him number 3 overall.
Yeah.
This is going to be a guy who they're going to, and they spent a lot of money on him. They also spent a 2nd-round pick on him to acquire him in a trade. So they might, if they're going to trade him, which they absolutely should, they need to get whatever they can for him.
Yeah.
Because you can't just spend all this money on a quarterback, spend a 2nd-round pick, have him have a pretty good year, and win most of his starts for you as a 49er, and then just get nothing for him. So maybe in these starts that he gets, try to maximize his value, try to rack up his numbers, so you can say at the deadline, say, hey, does anybody need a quarterback? Because we have one to give.
Yeah. And he's kind of cheap right now based upon market value. I think he's cheap.
Well, yeah, of course. This is the lowest value he'll come at. I mean,
no, it's not market, just like his contract. So it wouldn't be a heavy burden to put him on your books, depending on who you are.
Right, that's also a good point. It was a big contract at the time, but since the deals of Dak Prescott and
Russell Wilson,
Deshaun
Watson, Patrick Mahomes,
Patrick,
it's not
all
that
these
bad of a
big
deal.
deals, it's not that big. It's not that big of a deal anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, yeah, you're absolutely right there. But anyways, we hinted a little bit earlier on in the show about the New York Jets possibly doing something right for once in a very long time. We'll get that to you next on the Fumblerooski podcast. Welcome back. I'm Adam Wright with Justin Tucker. We've been talking about a couple of quarterbacks, and we have this one, Zach Wilson for the New York Jets, who put on a bit of a show this past weekend. He threw his completion percentage was nearly perfect. He threw for a couple touchdowns and over 100 yards. Zach Wilson. So, Justin, do you think the Jets have finally found a franchise quarterback?
Easy there, big fella. Easy. Let's slow down on the Zach Wilson hype for right now.
Really, my follow-up question was going to be even bolder.
Mm-hmm. Let's just calm down on old Bucko here. He's been looking good in the preseason, but again, it's preseason, so let's take it with a ton of salt, not just a grain, a ton of salt, and let's just, all right, he's looked good, but overall, is he the franchise guy? I don't think that's a question you can answer during preseason. I think that's something you have to answer during the regular season. So I think the jury's still out on it, but he's taking steps in the right direction to show you, yes, he's fully capable of it. I believe down the line in like the first 2 weeks, if he starts to show you like, wow, he really got something to him, then yes, then I can be like, all right, I can see him being the franchise, but I won't say it until I see him in the regular season and play like a franchise quarterback.
See, this Jets team most likely will not even make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think there's a chance that this team could suck, but Zach Wilson still plays amazing?
Yeah, I could see it being like a Bengals situation where the team is terrible, but the quarterback plays him good. I could see it like that, or in Justin Herbert's case, being offensive rookie of the year. Yeah, I could see something like that.
Right, because I mean, this team may not be playoff caliber, but they do have a couple pieces here
Mm-hmm.
and there now that we think of it, where Zach Wilson could actually play a little bit. You know, you have a nice deep wide receiving core in Corey Davis, Denzel Mims, Jamison Crowder, Elijah Moore. You have all of these pieces, all these targets for him to throw to. And
Mm-hmm.
as long as the offensive line doesn't get him killed, then this could be a good and maybe running back Michael Carter, rookie wide running back for the team. If he could be of use to them, maybe he can. Now it's not a playoff roster. That's not a great offense by any means, but could that be an environment? That could be an environment for him to be surrounded by where he could grow into a legitimate NFL quarterback, and maybe as the roster gets better, this franchise turns around.
Yeah, I could see it. They have a few pieces here and there on offense and defense. I think we're forgetting that C.J. Mosley is back now for the team, and he's hopefully 100% healthy. Knock on wood. Quinn Nelson. I mean, not Quinn Nelson. Quinn Williams, who's a giant monster stud at D tackle. He'll be there, and their whole entire front seven before the injury to, I want to say
Carl
Carl.
Lawson.
Yeah,
Yeah,
before it was,
he was the only significant loss though.
yeah.
Besides that, they haven't really. They've been saying down in New York that there's been an injury bug that's been biting them, but it's mainly been backups. You know, players who are barely starters. I mean, the only real loss that they've had was Carl Lawson, who's going to be out with a ruptured Achilles.
Oh, I know he's out for the season. But other than that, I think their front seven is going to be very good, and they have the pieces around them to be very good. I think they have a quarterback that's young and inexperienced, so I'm not sure if that will be conducive to wins. And I'm not too happy about their wide receiver core. I know they got Corey Davis, but I always looked at him as the 2 in Tennessee. Now, if he explodes in New York and becomes a true number one like he should have been in 2017, I'd say congratulations. But I'm not sure he'll be that true number one yet. And so I think it's just a matter of wait and see what you have. And if I think they'll be better than last year, because there's no way you can be any worse than you were last year. But only up from here is the way I'd see the Jets. I'd see them going 6-11. Which isn't bad, but it's not all that great either.
Yeah, this will be a team where you look at it as more of a moral victory at best, and they'll show some potential. They'll probably give a couple really good teams, actual playoff teams, or even contenders, some scares. But overall, they're going to lose most games, and this will be a team where they don't make the playoffs, but you look at them and you say they might have a little bit of a future going on.
Mm-hmm. Better be careful, though, Patriots fans. You guys might lose to them one of these times.
Give me a break.
I wouldn't.
Let's not go that far. Let's not go that
how you
far.
can be this way
This
about.
this has been a little bit of an episode of overreactions, but that's just just be quiet, Justin. Just
No. I like how you say Cam Newton is a bum. He's not going to lead this team anywhere. But then when I say the Jets could actually beat the Patriots, you're like, nah, come on, that's an overreaction.
Because as bad as Cam Newton was, as bad as that Patriots roster was, they still swept the Jets last year.
Yeah,
And now with an improved roster for the Patriots, It's not. I know the Jets have an improved roster too, but the Patriot, it just evens out. And if Mac Jones is starting, I'm forgetting what the schedule is looking like for the Patriots. I don't know if they're facing the Jets before week 4, but Patriots schedule. Let's see. Are they facing preseason? So they have September. So they have September 19th. So September 12th. That's Dolphins. They do have the Jets. Do have the Jets right before. So they have the Jets a couple weeks, but it doesn't matter. They're gonna beat them with Cam anyways. It's an improved roster.
You're saying Pats and 2?
Pats, they sweep.
Mm.
And they're not facing him in the playoffs, so it's 2-0 against him. It's gonna happen again.
Okay. We'll remember this. This is recorded.
It is recorded, and I'm gonna if I end up being wrong, I will have to record myself cutting back on it and saying, yeah, I was wrong. Unless something controversial happens, then I have an excuse.
Doesn't mean I won't ride you for it and saying, yeah, I told you guys could lose.
She said.
This guy.
Anyways, time will tell on that one to reference an old episode a couple episodes ago, episode 36, where we said that every other sentence. But anyways, next we're going to go into the new Indianapolis Colts, whose 2 best players have gotten injured recently, but it seems like they have a little bit their recoveries have gone a little bit faster than expected. We'll get to that next. Stay tuned. All right. Hello and welcome back. So we get into the Indianapolis Colts now. And a couple of weeks ago, quarterback Carson Wentz for the Indianapolis Colts and guard Quentin Nelson, who are arguably 2 of their best players on that team, they both suffered the same foot injury, which originally required 5 to 12 weeks recovery. But it seems that all of a sudden, in a blink of an eye, just like that, they are already back in practicing this week. And they are actually, according to reports internally within the organization, those 2 are expected to start week 1 barring any changes or any setbacks. So Justin, if this happens, like if this pans out, what do you think we can expect from the Indianapolis Colts going into next year? This year?
I think the team is going to be a bit rusty at first because Carson Wentz and Quentin Nelson hasn't been with the team during training camp. So during these preseason games, they don't have their starting quarterback and their starting left guard. That's going to be a problem that's going to transition to the regular season because they need that continuity to ingratiate themselves to they're playing like Carson Wentz. He just arrived there, so you kind of need him to be there to learn the plays, learn how everybody works within that scheme. And when he's not there, it's kind of so you want your franchise quarterback to be there. And so it's good news and it's bad news. I wouldn't rush them. I'd want to see where they are and be like, do I play them or do I not? But overall, it's a very good sign that they might be able to play week 1. And I was very worried about their schedule.
Yeah, I know you mentioned that right away in your initial take a couple of weeks ago when we first talked about this, when this first came up, is that They have a really tough schedule coming out. But look, the fact remains. So regardless of whether they're rusty or not, if they're
Mhm.
healthy, they need to play. That's just you got to shake off the rust somehow. And they are probably going to struggle coming out of the gates because Carson Wentz and Quentin Nelson haven't gotten reps with the newly formed team,
Mhm.
and they're going to have to figure things out on the fly, and that might take a couple of weeks. Now, they may not start 0-4 or 0-5 like we thought they would if their backup quarterback and backup guard would be starting,
Mhm.
but they'll still end up having to fight back from a bit of a hole coming out of the start of this season. And now you and I, Justin, we had this team on our power rankings,
Yeah.
in the top 10 teams coming into this season. And I don't know about what your thoughts are, but I wrote them off
Yeah.
as soon as I found out news on this. They might be I had them number 6, so I was pretty high on them.
Yeah.
But I still might I don't think I can put them much high, back quite up to that same spot. They could be top 10, I think, maybe 7 or 8, but it's hard to believe that a team that will go off to a slow start will be a top 6 team in the league. They'll have to be like electric in order for that to happen. I don't see it.
Well, as far as the Colts are concerned, and as far as their injuries with Carson Wentz and Quinn Nelson, as far as like their camaraderie with the team or whatever, Quinn Nelson's been there since the jump, especially since Frank Reich has been there. So as far as like the play calling and scheming, that it'll be fine considering he's been there before. He knows what's up. He knows the line, and he'll be in there just fine. It's just a matter of, is he healthy enough to play? I think it's the same thing with Carson Wentz, just to a lesser degree, because he has had relationships with Frank Reich, being on the Eagles staff that won the Super Bowl and then went to the Colts. So it's like, all right, there's something here to this. I believe Carson Wentz could be fine. It's just a matter of, with all the injuries in his past, is he actually 100% healthy to play with or to
Right,
play?
but Justin, it's still a completely different personnel he has to get used to.
Yeah, I think that's why I'm like hesitant to be like, oh, they're just going to like fire off on all cylinders.
Yeah, they won't do that. That's
Yeah,
not going to happen.
I think they'll rely on Jonathan Taylor more often than not. Just I think they're just going to try to do that until Carson Wentz feels completely like fine with the receivers and whatnot.
Yeah, you're right on that one. Um,
As I always am, I'm always right.
that was a given, but it's gonna be a tough thing to tell. They'll have to, but they will. I think they obviously will struggle out of the gates. Like that feels like a given right now,
Hmm.
and they do have some familiarity, especially Carson Wentz and especially Quentin Nelson, since he's been on the team for a few years. But Carson Wentz, he still has a relationship with Frank Reich, and he's going to want to model that offense after the 2017 Eagles, which was a career year for Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
But it's still going to this team is going to take time to gel, especially now. I thought they were going to take time to gel before, but now it's especially going to take time.
Hmm.
Like they're going to struggle for a little bit, and I think they'll emerge as a playoff team later on in the year, maybe 10-7, 11-6.
Oh, these numbers. Oh, these numbers.
All right. Well, up next we have another quarterback, recently injured quarterback, Dak Prescott, recovering from his shoulder surgery. Or sorry, not shoulder surgery, shoulder tweak.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that. We'll get to that next. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Fumblerooski podcast. All right, here we go. We have Dak Prescott on the Dallas Cowboys, who has been recovering from shoulder injury,
Hmm.
and so he hasn't gotten any preseason reps. He's hardly gotten uh, very much training action in training camp either.
Hmm.
But regardless, in his recovery process, the team has updated and have informed the media that he will be ready for uh, for September 9th when they open against the Buccaneers. So Justin, we haven't really touched much on the Cowboys this offseason
The
besides
cow.
when the Dak Prescott deal happened. But
Yeah.
what do you think? What do you think we can expect from this Dallas Cowboys team this year?
I think they'll be contenders in the NFC East. I think they'll do what they always do, blow away games that they should win. And when it comes down to the final game of the season, whether or not they make the playoffs or not, they'll lose and then go home, which is what they always do. We them boys. But to me, in all honesty, I do think they're going to win the East. I'm not convinced about the quarterback situation in Philly. I'm not convinced about the quarterback situation in New York. And I'm not overly confident in that Washington football team offense. I know they added a few pieces here and there, but I'm just hesitant about it right now. But I do believe it's going to be either the most competitive or the least competitive because I believe all the teams in that division has an opportunity to win that division, regardless of
You don't have confidence in the New York Giants?
Daniel Jones.
You don't think you don't like Daniel Jones? I'll take it.
The man trips over his own feet. No, I don't trust in Daniel Jones right
He did it once.
now. All right. Running by himself.
Tom Brady's done that before. He was
Okay.
trying to catch a pass and he tripped.
He was trying to catch a pass. Daniel Jones was flat out running.
That did happen. It's I still think I mean it was just a mistake. I mean, it happens.
All right, fine. That's one mistake. But if you're in training camp and you're throwing interceptions to literally the defender who's the only one there, that's where I'm like, okay, what's going on here? What are you doing? What are you seeing? Is the big thing. So until I see more improvement from Daniel Jones, that's where I'm at with the Giants. Because I don't care how many weapons you put around him. He needs to show me that he can actually do this.
So you're not convinced on Daniel Jones. You really think you're more on regardless on the additions they made this offseason with Kenny Golladay added to the mix with Darius Slayton, Justin uh, Sterling Shepard,
Yeah.
Evan Engram, and Saquon Barkley. Not
Mhm.
convinced that team regardless. Daniel Jones needs to step up.
You could have all those pieces around him, but if he doesn't step up, what's the point in having them?
All right, we are getting off topic though. I'll catch us right now. We need to revert back over to the Cowboys.
Cowboys, but
Cowboys,
yeah,
let me give you my basic take on this team. If the defense is good, the team will be good.
oh my god,
This
that's
that offense is electric, and if Dak Prescott is anywhere near where he was last year,
yeah.
and the defense is good, then they'll be a playoff team. Even if the Giants end up panning out, even if Daniel Jones ends up stepping up with weapons around him finally,
Mm-hmm.
there's still no match for the Dallas Cowboys if they can play defense. Who literally a couple of years ago were just one of the better defenses in the league and then just fall off a cliff last year. But do you remember how electric that offense was? That Cowboys offense was in the first few weeks of the season? It was
Yeah.
great. CeeDee Lamb looked amazing. He looked like a legitimate future number one wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
And he could be this year. You have Amari Cooper. Michael Gallup's your number 3 guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's more of a number 2. and he's your number 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then you still have Ezekiel Elliott, who's gonna eat. That's a pretty good team. And if that defense can step up and play better, then that's a playoff team.
But it's the Cowboys.
They've got to break that curse eventually. And they have been playoff team. They were the Cowboys in 2016.
Yeah,
that was a pretty damn good team.
They still got bounced.
Okay, they went 13-3.
Yeah, I'd hear you more if you said the 2018 Cowboys where they beat the Seahawks but then lost to the eventual NFC champion Rams. But if you're bringing up 2016, they lost in the divisional round.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I can see them making the playoffs. It's Super Bowl contention that I'm worried about. Not only will they not.
I never said anything about Super Bowl contention. I just said that they'd be a playoff team.
Yeah, that's a big if because they don't even make the playoffs when they have like playoff aspirations. Forget Super Bowl, it's playoff aspirations they struggle with. And there's no reason they should be struggling with that with the amount of talent they have on both sides of the ball.
Well, the issue is that it's not it's on the defensive side of the ball that talent needs to come through. And like I said, if the defense does come through, they'll be a playoff team. Because then they'll have more balance. The issue last year was balance. They didn't have defense, and they were losing games on offense, on defense when their offense was lighting up the scoreboard like a pinball machine.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to have to. The offense is proven enough, as long as Dak Prescott's shoulder is all right, and his ankle, by the way, which he snapped in half. But
yeah.
As long as that's this team's a playoff team.
Yeah, they could be, but it's the Cowboys too, so you got to be careful with them.
Yeah, I never said there's any guarantees, but it's an if. It is an if.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, do you have any other thoughts before we close out the show?
My Ravens are still on their winning streak during preseason. I'm happy about that. Let's get it. If only your team could be like us. If only.
Yeah, we're more focused on the Super Bowl winning streaks. Winning Super Bowls.
You guys,
let alone regular season.
No, that doesn't. No, we're not counting. You guys aren't on a Super Bowl.
We're not counting regular season. So we're counting preseason. Preseason is where it's at. You rack up those wins in there, and you'll be in the Hall of Fame for sure.
You only have one Super Bowl. You've only won one Super Bowl, and you haven't won twice in a row. That doesn't count.
Just because we haven't won twice in a row?
You're saying you guys are on a Super Bowl winning streak.
Oh, yeah. Well, they won 2 in a row back in 18 and in 14 and 16.
That's not 2 in a row.
They won 2 Super Bowls without losing a Super Bowl. How about that?
They lost in 17 to the Eagles. Stop that.
I misspoke. More like we are more focused on winning Super Bowls rather than preseason win streaks. Let alone win streaks in the regular season, which is also more important. Or playoff win streaks, which are also more important.
Y'all remember the last time y'all went on a winning streak? Y'all remember how that ended?
Oh, well, that's not to say winning streaks are bad. It's just finish out your winning streak with a Super Bowl win.
Yeah, and
they have had a long 20-plus game win streak where they won 2 Super Bowls. So just saying. They've had their share of success.
We'll talk about it later.
Anyways, that'll do it for us tonight. Thank you for listening to us. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out on Spotify, Spreaker, and Google Podcast. Also, be sure to follow our Instagram at Fumblerooski_podcast to keep up with the podcast and the latest coverage on the NFL. Otherwise, we will see you next week. Over and out.
Bye-bye.